All righty. Well, thanks, Betsy, and good afternoon, everybody. First of all, let me just say congratulations to all that you're doing to keep this region so healthy, and it certainly doesn't happen by itself, and it's apparent to me the connections theme, I think, Rich, is exactly right, and very, very impressive, not just what you're doing, but how you're doing it. Thank you for the opportunity to come talk with you today. Let me do a couple of introductions. The Alaska table over here, we've got Dan Russo as our Horizons VP of Marketing. Dan. And next to Dan is Candace Payne, who's our account manager for this region, and then Jolisa Darcy, a supervisor out at the airport. So thanks for joining me today. Okay, I know this is dangerous, but let's have a show of hands of how many frequent flyers we have, or how many gold members do we have? Yeah, I know it wasn't going to be Susan, and we'll work on this. So appreciate very much. Thank you for your business, and every chance I get to thank customers for flying on us. We don't take customers for granted at all. This is a very, very competitive business. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about that. I made a commitment to our marketing team that I would talk to at least 5 frequent flyers every week. So I'm going to go back to them and tell them I get lots of credit for today. So. And thanks also, I certainly second the comments about the Spokane International Airport. This is just a great facility for us. It works really well for customers. It works really well for our employees in terms of taking care of those customers and turning the airplanes. And importantly, especially in an economy like we're in, it is a good low-cost airport for the airlines. And that is really, really important. And as airlines go out and look at developing new service, airport costs, which used to not be a very big factor when you run a profit and loss statement for a given route, it's now very significant. And we're having a lot of difficult conversations with airports around our system that are not being disciplined about their costs. So congratulations to the airport and the leadership there, who I think has a conviction about maintaining low costs and having a facility that works for everybody. So to kick this off, let me play a radio ad from Horizon's long-running Clark and Lewis radio campaign. Let's roll that.
Hey, Lewis, you remember when we went on that really, really long hike to the Pacific Ocean? You know, the Clark and Lewis expedition?
Oh, yeah, good fun.
Yeah. Well, okay, so I'm thinking we should do something to commemorate it.
Clark, I'm not making that hike again.
No, I'm saying we should fly.
Oh, that's right, people fly now.
Yeah, on Horizon Air. Horizon's all over the Northwest, even Canada. They're the only regional airline in the country to make the Condé Nast Traveler magazine's top 10 list.
Was that good?
I don't know, I'm not sure. But I'm talking to Sacagawea, okay? And she says Horizon gives you advanced seat selection, tasty snacks, wine and microbrews, and the most flights to the most Northwest cities.
There are cities in the Northwest now?
Did I say cities? I meant villages.
Bustling villages?
I don't know. 1 or 2 may bustle, but we can avoid those. Come on, Mary.
Hey, I told you. Don't call me Mary.
I'm sorry, it just slipped out. Come on, Lewis. How much could the Northwest change in 200 years?
Yeah. And by the way, Dan Russo is the creative mind behind those ads, and he's got another 39 of them or something if you want to hear some more sometime. They're pretty darn good. And I thought this was fitting because Clark and Lewis, who, as you no doubt guessed, are based on the renowned explorers Lewis and Clark, I think would be shocked to see how far this region has come, not only over the last 200 years, but especially over the last decade or so. And I have very fond memories of this region dating back to actually going to summer camp up on the Pend Oreille River when I was a kid. And back in 1980, I had a not-so-bright idea to start a little airline called Air Olympia. And we flew from Spokane to Yakima and on into Olympia. And I promised I won't embarrass myself by asking if anybody here actually flew on Air Olympia. So thank you for not telling me about that. We didn't have enough passengers, obviously. So, my favorite Spokane story, and it's also, I think, one of my favorite airline stories, occurred at a meeting a few years ago with Herb Kelleher, who is the CEO at Southwest Airlines. And let me just say up front that I have huge respect for Southwest and for Herb and the team that he's built. So this is not a criticism of him or the company. But as I recall, we were sitting around talking about some industry issue, and Herb all of a sudden blurts out, as he was known to do, "Hey, Bill, what's with all these flights you guys are putting into Spokane? And what's going on in Spokane?" And I said, "Herb, first of all, it's Spokane, not Spokane. There's actually a lot going on there, and it really is our kind of place." So I gave him a little education about the market here. This region has an impressive resume, as you all know, and you've been building. We look at it and say, wow, there's 4 major universities, there's a thriving healthcare industry, there's an important and growing IT and digital media sector, and you just saw the video on that, companies like Next IT. and now the exciting prospect of a medical school. And I think how you're doing these things is as important and as impressive as what you're doing, because the how gets to, is this sustainable? Is this kind of connection, coming together, working as a region together to accomplish important things? That's what makes this sustainable and ought to give you a whole lot of confidence about your future. So even with all the growth over the years, this region maintains the feeling of a smaller community with the high quality of life that comes with it. And I think that's pretty darn important. And an important aspect of that are the connections and the partnerships that you've built, obviously, and you have a great brand and a great reputation. So Alaska Air Group, Alaska Airlines and Horizon, and this region, I think, have a great deal in common. I think our company is striving for many of the same things, which is offering the benefits of a bigger network, a bigger route network, while retaining a closeness to customers and that kind of smaller feel. We're building connections to communities. We want to be a good partner with Spokane and the other communities that we serve. And we're preserving a nimbleness to respond quickly to competitive opportunities. It's an advantage of being a little bit smaller. You can see things other people don't see. You can talk to customers where other people can't. You can make decisions. You can move faster. You can do more things. And it makes it just, I think it's a lot more exciting to operate that way. So you have a great story here in Spokane. You have some exciting plans underway to keep the region vibrant and growing. And as I said, if history's any indicator, I think you'll do really well with that. But it is a challenging time. And the economy isn't improving very quickly. And continuing to win requires a solid plan, and it requires persistence. So as well as you're doing on so many fronts, I know that there are many challenges out there. And it is exactly the same for us at Alaska Air Group. Now, I think we both have a solid foundation from which to pursue new opportunities. So what I want to do is tell you a little bit about the transformation of Alaska Airlines. And this goes back to 2001, but more specifically from about 2003 forward. And I want to share with you some of the important lessons that we learned along the journey that might be helpful to some of you in your businesses as you look at continuing to deal with a difficult economy and a difficult competitive environment that you might be faced with. The most important thing I can tell you is that it's all about making changes and sticking with it. And what we learned is that we have to change as an organization. We have to change at least as fast internally as the world is changing externally to be successful. And I think this is a Warren Buffett expression as well. If you fall behind the power curve on that, you got a big problem. So the context for us is this. The airline industry is extremely competitive. This might make you feel better about your business, okay? The airline industry is extremely competitive. It's capital intensive. It's labor intensive. It is highly regulated. It is very highly taxed, more than cigarettes or liquor as a % of revenue. And our bottom line is very sensitive to the price of oil, which went from $35 a barrel to $157 and almost back again in a not very long period of time. And we have little political clout to do anything about it. Other than that, it is a great industry. You feeling better? So the decision to start down a new path for us at Alaska began really just following the very dark and tragic days following 9/11. Our revenue disappeared almost overnight, and it was very apparent that we needed to make some major changes just to survive. And we decided that we were absolutely going to find a path that would work. We weren't going to say, stuff happens, so be it, we'll see where it goes. We said, we're going to figure out where the levers are, where are the controls on this thing. What can we control? What can we make better? And I would say that today, nearly 10 years later, I think we can say that we have controlled a lot about our future. And we're starting to see some very, very positive results. But it's a challenge every day, and we're careful never to declare victory because, as soon as you do that, then something else will happen. So we started our transformation recognizing that our company had a lot of opportunity for improvement. And it's easy to spend too much time justifying or defending the status quo. Think about what the conversations must have been like in the boardroom at companies like AIG, Lehman Brothers, General Motors, Bear Stearns, Washington Mutual, on and on and on. They must have justified that things were okay, and this really is going to turn around. There's also a trap not to move very quickly if you've had some success. And I would tell you that we had a couple of good years. As I look back at it, it was the economy. It wasn't so much what we had done, but we attributed it to more about management. 98, 99 were very good years for the airline industry. You couldn't help but make money. But that success actually slowed our ability to see clearly about the future and the need to make some pretty dramatic changes. So if you strip away the technical details from our business, and obviously, details are very important when you're flying airplanes, but if you can set them aside, what I would say is that, probably not unlike your business, airlines are fundamentally a people business. And what we do is we try to create loyal customers through engaged employees. I've heard people describe airlines as the ultimate team sport, because you really can't operate in silos. You can't be bureaucratic here if you're going to do any kind of a good job for customers, because it cuts across all of the organizational boundaries, the changes that you need to make. So the challenge is to make the required changes to the business model, some of which negatively affect employees, like pay cuts and layoffs, but at the end of the day, still have an engaged, enthusiastic employee group who wants to go out there every single day and take great care of customers. So that's the dilemma here. You got to make changes that are going to impact people in a negative way to be viable. But at the end of the day, you're counting on them to do a great job with customers for your business model to work. So that leads you to all kinds of things. How are we going to do this? How are we going to communicate these changes? How are we going to engage people? How are we going to get it to be their idea? And it takes time. That's why I get into this persistence and a little more patience. I'm not very patient sometimes, and I learned some patience through the last decade or so. And importantly, we said up front that we weren't going to compromise our values in the course of making these necessary and sometimes pretty dramatic changes. Now, we're only one of a couple of airlines that is restructured outside of bankruptcy, which means that we did the hard stuff ourselves. We didn't just